Ahoy and welcome. I am the Pirate Tester. My name's Lee, and I'm continuing my introduction to SQL for testers. And today I will be talking about how to join tables and why you would need to join tables. So we're going to have a couple of tables to use today. Our first one is called customer. So this time we've got a customer number column, a forename column, a surname, and an address number column. Now, we also have an address table. So we have an address number column, a house number column, a street column, a city column, and a postcode column. Depending where in your world, this is equivalent to zip codes for America. Not sure about other countries, but pretty much it's different things that together give you an address where someone lives. You'd probably have more columns than this in a real table, so you'd probably have country, county, states, that kind of thing. You might have multiple lines for streets. Generally, you can have up to like 5 lines combined that equal like street and city and so forth. So imagine you had one, right, I want to find out who are all the customers we have and where do they live. So previously I talked about how you could write a basic query and you could select from a table. But now we've got 2 tables that we need to get the information from. And we can't just go show me the customer table and then in a separate query show me the address table, because we need them to talk to each other. That doesn't necessarily help you to go, well, these are all the addresses, but I don't know who lives there. I don't know where, in this case, where good old me, Lee Marshall, lives. Where do I live? What's my address? And I've been clever enough not to put my real address on. So there's a couple of things I want to go over before I explain joins. One key thing with joining tables is you have what's known as a primary key and a secondary key, a foreign key, not secondary key, foreign key. So for our customer table, our primary key would be customer number. Generally, for almost always for most tables, these are unique values. So they will normally go in increasing value. And then your foreign key is, this is a value which is a primary key on a different table. So these can be used more than once. So for example, both Jack Jones and Jane Jones both live at address number 3. We don't know what address number 3 is yet, but this represents more than one person lives there. So if we go to our address table, we have our address number column, and we have a 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you know what the foreign key is and how it links back to a different table, you can go, right. So if I wanted to get from customer number to address, we've got our address number column. So we know that from customer, we can get straight to the address table. Depending on the tables you're using, you might need to use multiple tables to eventually get to your destination. But for this exercise, for this talk, demonstration, whatever, we're just going to go with nice basic 2 tables. Now, the most common type of join you want to do is what's known as an inner join. I've put inner in bracket because when we come around to writing it, if you just say, I want to join a table, it assumes this. So we've got our customer table and we've got our address table. And within a join, you only want to know who exists in both in this lovely Venn diagram. So if there is a customer who doesn't have an address, or an address that doesn't have a customer, we don't want them. We only want people who have both a customer who has an address. So this lovely intersects here. So that's going to be called an inner join. So how do we write it? Good old. So we're going nice and sloppy with this. We're just saying select star. So by using select star, we're going to get the columns from all the tables we're wanting to see. Over time, we might want to amend to only specify the exact ones, but for now, nice and clear, just show me all the columns. So we're saying from customer initially. So that's what's going to be our starting table. Initially, we go, right, I want the customers who then join onto other things. Now, then what you want to do is you say join. In this case, so if you say join, this means inner join. You can just say join. If you want to write inner join, that works perfectly well as well. But I just get in the habit of saying join. So then you say what table you want to do. In this case, the address table. We then say on. So this is the key thing to remember, and what I didn't necessarily get right for a while, because if we go back to say if you go back to our previous video, we want to do something, we're saying where. So we're saying from this table, where, and this goes, these are the particular rules I'm looking for. But with joining, we want to use on. So this is going with what I want to get connect to this table. On is telling you how I get from these tables to talk to this table. So because the column is called address no on both tables, you can't just say address no equals address no, because it wouldn't know which address no you mean. If you say table dot and then the column you need, it knows exactly what column and table you mean. So we say we want to get the customer table's address number, and we want that where that exactly matches, so a good old equals address dot address number. So if we have this, we're saying select star, so show me on the customer table and the address table where the customer address number is the same as the address table's address number. So if we got that, we've got customers with address numbers 1, 2, 3, and we have address numbers of 1, 2, 3, 4. So in this case, we would see all of these customers, but we wouldn't see this row here because there is no customer with an address number 4. So we would see this one, and we would see this row twice, because effectively it would continue on for both Jack and Jane. Okay, hopefully it's nice and clear. So this is where you go, and the key thing with an inner join is it is the most common join you will use. Most of my experience, I have been wanting this. I've been only wanting where this is true. If the customer doesn't have an address, that isn't useful for what I'm doing right now. I might need it for occasionally some other things. So what happens if you wanted to know, go show me everyone on the table, and if they have something in a different table, show me. So this is where we use a left join. And I've suddenly realized what I really should have done, because in my example, I use address. But the principle applies. So it goes, so if we were to do a left join on customer, it goes, show me everyone on the customer table. And if they're on the address table as well, show me that. But if they don't have anything on addresses, it will just show nothing on that side. So it will just show lots of nulls, empty values. I've very, very rarely used a left join, only recently on some like heavily database-based testing I've done where we're wanting to connect to tables. So it's useful if you go, I always want to see these people. If they've got an address, brilliant. If they don't have one, I don't mind. I just want to go, if they've got one, show me. So this is when you would use a left join. There is an inverse called a right join, and pretty much you go, show me if it's here and not in here. I have never really needed one, because you could just flip your query around, and we'll get to in a second. So it's pretty much, remember how inner join works? That's your bread and butter. That's your bulk of your testing. Your niche is left join. As I said, there are some other joins. There's right joins, there's outer joins, but you're not likely to use them as a tester, so don't worry about them. If you ever need to look them up, Google it. Search for it in whatever search engine of choice you prefer, but let's focus on what you'll most likely use and then like second place so it's handy. So with our left join, this time I'm using address, and this is why I realized only speaking to you now, I should have colored in the address side, but oh well, live and learn, testing. So again, we're using select star. We're saying we want to show me all the addresses. So this time we're using a left join. So we're saying, show me all the addresses. And then if there is a customer that it links back to them, show me. But if they don't, fine. And again, we want it to go, the address number equals the address number. And we've specified the columns to make sure that it understands what we need to do. So show me all the addresses, and if it has a customer to it, brilliant. So in this case, we would get all 4 records because we're starting with the address table. But then when it comes across, we would get customer 1, customer 2, 3, and we would see this row twice because this exists twice over here. So it still shows both rows. It wouldn't go, which one do I show you? It goes, this combination gives me 2 things. It will show this, but then for customer, it would effectively look like that, where it would just be empty values. It would say null, 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 like I have on here. So it's useful if you want to go, does someone have this? Because you might have it where you join 2 values and then you get nothing. And is it because there is no data to connect these 2 tables? Or are you trying to connect in a way that you shouldn't, or using the wrong key, the wrong value? So imagine if we used, let me go back to our early version of the table called people, which we used in video 1. Imagine if we try to join addresses to their age. Now, it's a number value, so address number could link back to this. But it's the completely wrong thing to join on. And this is where it can be very useful to go, what connects my 2 tables together? So generally you might have, depending on your project, a DBA or a data scientist. They should be able to provide you with data models, or your developer might know and go, this column allows you to connect to this table, and these are the columns that do it. If you don't know, you might end up connecting the wrong things and get wildly different values. I've been on projects where we've misused the incorrect columns, and it can go horribly, horribly wrong. So testers beware. It is possible. You can have the best intention. You can go, yeah, I've got this column, join to this column, without realizing you have been using the wrong columns. Wow. One final thing I would like to say about joining tables is there is a different way you can join tables. This is the way that I was first shown how to join a table, but I don't like it. Now that I know how to use join on, I prefer it. So I'm going to show you a different way. The reason I'm saying this is you might work with some people who write their SQL in this way, and you might not understand how it works, why they're using it. It could just be that's the way they were trained and been doing it for years. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's outdated, but it's not the preferred method for writing a lot of SQL. And what you do is you stick it in your where clause. So we've got our select star, and we say from, and in this case, you list all the tables you want to join. So in this case, we want to go from customer, but also from the address table. So we use a comma and say address. The nice thing with SQL is you can keep going that way, or you can go that way. Doesn't matter. So long as there is a comma between the tables, that's all that matters. And then instead of our join on, we use our where clause. So we say where, and then it looks awfully familiar. Customer.addRno equals address.addRno. Now, the reason I don't like this is it can get very, very messy when you're adding or removing tables. It can get very complicated for keeping track of things. But also, I like my where clause to specify what I'm looking for. So if I wanted to find, so I wanted to only find people who live in Gotham. So I could say where city equals Gotham. If I've got that in my join on, it's very easy to see these are the tables I'm looking for, and then these are the conditions I'm wanting to apply. So specific cities, specific people, specific ages, whatever it might be. But if I list all my tables in my where, what I'm trying to join in my where clause, as well as the things I'm looking for, it can get very distracting. And yeah, it achieves the same result, but to me, it's not as clear, it's not as tidy, it's not as neat. So if you do work with people who use that, accept it. If that is how you've been trying to rate SQL and do your joins, I mean, stick with it, but I would encourage you to try and learn the join on method. There was someone I used to work with, left my workplace a couple of years ago, and he tried explaining this. And the problem is he didn't explain it in a very clear way, and he came across very pretentious, and people thought he was just trying to make things more difficult than it was, or so forth. So it didn't fly with a lot of people I worked with at the time. But since I've changed the people I work with, different developers, different theme teams, blah, 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 this is how the developers write code. And the more I've seen, the more I've gone, this is just very easy to do. And if you wanted to add more tables, so say we want to go from customer to address to orders, we want to know who someone is, where they live, and what they've ordered, or what their delivery address is versus their residential address, or so forth. You can just keep adding more joins. So you can go join table on equals this, and you can keep going and going and going. I have had it where I've got joins with 30, 40, I think at one point almost 100 tables. But if I needed to add or remove them, I can just take that block in or out and just check to see does anything else speak to it. Generally, as you chain your things up, if you're going to remove things, remove them from the end of the chain and work upwards, rather than don't remove addresses if there's like 20 tables that connect to your address table, because your SQL will just go bang and not work. So we'll go, I'm trying to join to something that doesn't exist. How do I get there? So that is joining in a nutshell. So it can seem quite complicated at first. You see like, oh God, it's hard enough trying to work out my query with one table. I don't want to add a second or even a third or fourth or whatever. But just so long as you know what are my columns that I'm trying to get to talk to each other from these tables. And there might not be one. And you might have a different table we need to get to first. So if I want to go from customers to their order history, there could be a different table for orders in the middle. And I go, oh, I want to get from A to C. I need table B in the middle. Or it might be AD, and I got to get two tables. I need to talk to this table, which talks to that table. And it can get quite complicated like that. So initially, only practice with two table joins. Once you feel comfortable with that, add a third and so forth. But you will eventually have to have it where you will need more than one table you need to put together for your query. So hopefully that has given you a good overview. If it's not clear, let me know and I can put things in the comments, or I can completely redesign the video. If there are things that you would like to see in the future for me to explain, let me know. Again, this is biased towards what is useful for a tester to view your data. Later on, I'll get on to explaining how to update, insert, and delete data, because you might want to manipulate your backend data to do things. But for now, let's focus on you need to be able to view it. If you can't see your data, you can't amend your data. So let's not get too far ahead. But querying a table and now being able to query multiple tables together, that should give you a real strong basis to help you view your data, but also potentially understand what the developer is trying to do and why. They might have a list of tables and you're like, well, how have you joined these tables together? Or I can see you've joined on this column. Is there a reason you're not using that column? They might have made a mistake, or it could just be to help you understand of actually that column has lots of repeated values. This column doesn't. That's why we're using this one instead. And it allows you that communication, that collaboration, which is what we want as testers. So hope this has been helpful to you. I am Lee, the Pirate Tester, and thanks very much. Bye.